get started. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your evening to attend. I greatly appreciate it, and it's always wonderful to see so many residents engaged in the issues that pertain to our community. We do have a full agenda tonight, and I hope that you will take the information that you gather from here and go back and share it with your neighbors and co-workers that were unable to attend this evening. I want to thank Access Eyes of King George for coming out this evening in support of my town hall. I hope each one of you had an opportunity to stop by their table. They are one of the newer businesses in King George. They're located on Route 3 in the same plaza where Exit Realty and Domino's Pizza are located. So please make sure you have gotten their information and take advantage of the services they provide to the community. Thank you very much. The Dahlgren Museum has provided, just got a text from Congressman Wittman. He's on his way. Caledon Road is closed, so he's been delayed, so he'll be here. The Dahlgren Museum has their new newsletter out. For those of you, if you're not familiar with this wonderful organization, please make sure to pick up one of the newsletters. If you'd like to become a member, there are membership forms. And if you have questions, Dr. Rob Gates is here this evening as a member of the board. He's happy to answer any of your questions. The museum will be open this Saturday, the 19th, from noon until 4 p.m. So please, if you have not been to the museum and visited it, take advantage of that opportunity. Up here on the tables in the front, as I already stated earlier, is information that you are welcome to take with you. And I do provide an electronic newsletter. If you are not currently signed up, you can do that at the table here as well. I do maintain a Facebook page, and I now have a Twitter account. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Brabo, and I do my best to try to keep all of you updated on what is happening. It seems there are a number of issues currently that are hot topics within our community. The public hearing for the 14-15 county budget is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. And while the budget is pretty much set, your comments are always welcome and needed. The budget this year is based on a 3-cent real estate property tax increase and a 5-cent personal property tax increase. The supervisors must wait a minimum of 7 days after the public hearing in order to adopt that budget. And historically, we would appropriate those monies on the second meeting in June. Unfortunately, with the state having not passed its budget, we may be faced with not being able to appropriate those monies before July 1st, which is when our fiscal year begins. So at this point, we are already taking steps and have given direction to the county administrator to start preparing now in the event we are faced with the government shutdown on July 1st. So I encourage you to contact our state representatives and ask everyone to work together and work across the aisle and pass the budget. It appears once again that concerns raised by the residents of the Dahlgren district regarding impacts to their quality of life are being brushed aside. We all know that VDOT representatives made it very clear that their concern was not for the residents of King George with regards to the Dahlgren-Owens intersection project. Dahlgren residents and businesses impacted by this intersection project felt disregarded and betrayed as their quality of life seemed of no importance despite my best efforts to advocate on their behalf. Even though VDOT's improvements to the intersection do not benefit the residents of King George, we have actually learned from this experience. As the rezoning of property next to the Bayberry subdivision is now a topic of contention, it would seem that once again, someone else's interests are being put before that of the actual residents of this community. This property has been listed for sale for quite some time with an annotation, possible rezoning to C2. Attempts have been made to purchase this property from the developer as it is currently zoned A2, and these proposals have been declined, leaving one to question the motives. The developer has provided no plan for development with his rezoning request, and that is probably because his intent is to simply sell the land as indicated by all of the ads online. And it would appear he is holding out in expectation of his rezoning request being granted in order to sell at a higher price. Rezoning should only occur when it is the community and its residents who will benefit. And at this point, the only beneficiary appears to be a developer looking to make a quick buck. I will not be a party to this, and I will continue to stand with the residents of King George County. We do not want this blatant disregard for our quality of life to become the norm. And by standing together, we can advocate for actions to protect our quality of life. As I said, I know there's lots of other issues, but I wanted to hone in on those two main key points right now that are topics of consideration by the Board of Supervisors. At this point, we typically hold all questions until the end of the meeting, so I'm going to ask that we do the same again this evening to ensure we get through all of the presentations. And the first speaker this evening is going to be Captain Nette, Commander of the Dahlgren Naval Base.
Good evening. Thanks for having me again, Ruby and Dahlgren District. Quick overview of some of the changes or some of the things that we're doing on installation. Somewhat in order. We convened our JLU's policy committee, and that following evening we had the JLU's public forum. Appeared there was a lot of good discussion on what to do with the range, Swan Point, some of the traffic backups and things. All those kind of topics and development areas in the county came up. I think it's a beneficial place, not only this forum, but those who couldn't attend. I believe the next meeting is scheduled to be late May, perhaps, or excuse me, late April or sometime in May. And then scheduled to give a presentation on some of the tenants that are on installation to give you an idea of how they impact you and what the potential growth is, or it can either encroach on you or the surrounding community can encroach on us based on where the developments are. So I think that's a great avenue. If those that can make it, please do. There are probably about 3 more public forums. Expect sometime late fall probably. It will be complete. And again, it's as a reminder, it's not a binding document. It's a recommended planning effort between the county and the installation, and it's sponsored by the county and the Office of the County. Some of the things that came out of that, and not as a lead-in, but base access has changed. We made some modifications based on increased security that's required to access all DoD installations. The biggest departure right now is that people are coming to, individuals are having to come to a complete stop at the installation and then hand over your credentials. And the officer will take a look at it, and that's also at certain times scan your credential, and scanning that will reach back in the databases and either confirm you're a valid holder or not. With that comes, along the way will come rejection procedures, which we also have to take into consideration. So as you know, previous to that, traffic was on a normal day backed up on Dahlgren Road probably for about 25 minutes, I think. It takes it from Food Line to get it on the main gate. We met with the county. Rudy was there, Joe Grzyka, Sheriff Dempsey, VDOT, Dr. Benson from the school board, and some of my staff, and tried to come out with what's the best way ahead solution that could alleviate the traffic congestion. So what we came up with, even though I didn't think it was going to work as effective, I'll show you the next slide is, what we did was take the main gate, 206 Dahlgren Road, and open up both lanes to inbound traffic between 06 and 09. They may change it to 0630, 09, I'm not quite sure yet. But what it did was the backup now is probably, I don't use that road to come in, but maybe 10 minutes, I'm told. But what it does allow you, if your credential does have issues, you're at B gate or at A gate, you can go to pass on that some of the traffic will get drawn from B gate to come to main gate, as it is provide you an alternative. So you're not just standing in line at the food line and creeping your way up. So that's what we did. We blocked off a couple roads along the base, forced our residents. The only way to get off the installation is through B gate. So between that time, and that impacts mutual aid, which was coordinated as well. B gate will look like this, same way. You can get to any point in the installation through main or B gate if you're in that area. Long-term plan, something that we need to talk to VDOT, I think the county, and there's certain different federal types of funding for access to the installation. As the buildups occur, congestion occurs, to see if there's any federal funding available to extend some of the right-hand lane or some other modification. Real long-term, it would be more suited to get a Milcon project, a construction project. It kind of takes everything we do at main gate and shifts it to B gate, but inside of the installation a little bit more. But that's a process that won't happen along here, but it's something that we're looking at to kick off. Go back. Next, constructed wetland. That's a project we started in the wintertime, and what that does is put us in compliance. We expect to put us in compliance to adhere to the Chesapeake Bay requirements. What it does is take stormwater. The installation is responsible for all stormwater, rainwater that crosses its topsoil, if you will, and goes into the Machoke or the Potomac River. We're responsible for the amount of nutrients or the stuff that's on top gets discharged into the river. So what we did, or what we are doing, is building a natural filter. For those who go on the base, it's digging up some earth, moving it around, having the water filtrate through the sand, and then as it's discharged. So we expect that'll put us within the requirements for the next 10 to 15 years. So that's a positive note as well. The other positive trends, the Cruise and Destroy facility. That's an expansion of Aegis Training Readiness Center. Got a little bit delayed in the winter due to weather, but it's still on track. Expected completion date is in March. There'll be a groundbreaking for a fitness center on the 23rd of April, and we expect that to complete in May of 2015. The other things that are going on is Center for Surface Combat System. The captain there is Captain Don Schmiley. He's having a change of command and retiring. His relief is Captain McKinley. I don't know where he's coming from, but so you'll see a change there as well. Dominion Virginia Power, for those who drive by the installation, their substation is still being constructed. It's expected to go live 1 June. With that, we hope to see if they'll feed a direct line to installation, a direct line to the community, and to address the growth concerns. 2035, I believe, is the way they couched it. So that should be provide all of us more reliable power. The Dahlgren STEM Summer Academy, in the last couple of years, last year and this year, we partnered with King George. It's currently held at the middle school. I think the previous 2 years was held on installation. But Naval Surface Warfare Center does a great job in providing the scientists and engineers that help our youth continue that trend for that kind of accountability in this country. And finally, Aegis Training and Readiness Center, change of command, Captain Ian Hall. He's going to be relieved by, I believe, Captain Gulick. I don't know the spelling of that. So, but with that, I'll be around for questions. If you got any concerns with the JLUs, things that were discussed, the traffic patterns, anything that we do that impacts you, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Captain Nette. Okay, next, we have a DECA student here this evening who would like to share with you how DECA students are putting King George County on the map and making an impact. Clara Brabo.
Good evening. My name is Clara Bravo, and I'm a sophomore at King George High School. This is my second year as a member of my school's DECA chapter. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management. DECA is a part of the King George High School Career Technical Education Program. DECA has given me the opportunity to broaden my horizons and meet many incredible people. It has helped me to overcome my fear of public speaking. DECA has now given me the opportunity to assume a role as a leader because I will be next year's District 19 president. This year, I attended the DECA State Leadership Conference, SLC, along with my two partners and many other members. My partners and I presented our project about distracted driving to a judge at SLC. We chose distracted driving as our topic because of the car accident that happened to the Dempsey family. The truck driver was distracted due to reaching for a piece of paper. We placed in the top 8 at the competition and now have the honor of attending International's ICDC. We are very excited about this. In preparation for the ICDC competition, we are asking more people to sign our pledge to not drive while distracted. I brought pledge cards with me today, and I thank everyone who took a moment to sign the pledge. At this moment, I would like to invite Congressman Brabo up here to sign the pledge. King George High School will have 30 students competing at the International Conference. This is the most students our DECA chapter has ever had successfully compete at the state level. This is an indication of the caliber of students we have here in King George County. It would be greatly appreciated if you would give a donation to the King George High School DECA chapter to help us go to ICDC. And thank you to those of you who already have. Thank you for your time.
So there is a jar. Would anyone be offended if we pass it around in case any of you wanted to throw in $1 or $2? And Ms. Strauss will be all the way in the back to collect it at the end. So she's going to grab that jar, and we're going to just start it up front here. And if you contributed as you came in, we appreciate it. And these kids have worked very, very hard, and it is very expensive for them to take the trip.
It's like a plate. Take it.
All right, so as that's being passed around again, the kids really appreciate it. They are really an outstanding group of kids. So we are honored this evening to have Representative Rob Wittman here with us tonight to provide an update. In Congress, Rob serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the Committee on Natural Resources. He has quickly earned a reputation for being an advocate for our men and women in uniform and for being a champion of the Chesapeake Bay. In addition to these committees, Rob is a member of the Congressional Cystic Fibrosis Caucus, which many of you know is very near and dear to my heart as my friend Anthony Weiss is afflicted with cystic fibrosis. Rob and I both had the pleasure of attending the Great Strides Walk for Cystic Fibrosis this past Saturday at Herkamp Park in Fredericksburg. So if you would, please welcome Congressman Wittman.
I think I'll speak loud enough so everybody can hear me. Can you hear me in the back? All right, very good. Folks, thanks again. Ruby, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all this evening. Clara, you're a tough act to follow. You did a great job there in public speaking, so I can tell you, I'm going to have to work hard to make sure I follow in your footsteps. Folks, I want to talk a little bit about two things going on in Washington, which I think are significant issues that the Congress is going to face between now and the end of this calendar year. First is our budgeting issues, specifically the appropriations bills that need to get through before the end of the year, and looming sequestration that goes back into effect in 2016. Secondly, I want to talk about the challenges we face as a nation with our national defense. We see what's happening in the world today, whether it's what's happening this week in Ukraine, whether what's happening in North Korea, whether what's happening in Iran, in the Middle East, all of those deep concerns. And from my standpoint, and my job as the chairman of the Readiness Subcommittee, making sure that we are preparing our men and women who serve in uniform for what lies ahead and making sure they're properly resourced. That is making sure we have the proper number of sailors, of Marines, of soldiers, and of airmen, and making sure they're properly trained and properly equipped. That's our obligation. That's our duty as members of Congress. That's what absolutely has to happen. Let me talk about budgets to begin with. As you know, lots of back and forth about where we're going with this nation's finances. The deficit is a big issue. The debt is a big issue. But it's also wanting to make sure that we do the job of this nation, that is provide for our national defense, while getting us on track to balancing our budget. What we have to do as part of that is not only determine how do we get there, but making sure too that we do our job to make decisions about where the dollars we do have, where do they go. And we have passed a budget that takes us through both year 2014 and 2015. Now, sequestration faces us again in 2016, which is deeply concerning to me because we know what happens when those automatic cuts go back into place on our military. That is absolutely unacceptable. What we, though, have before us now in 2015 is to make sure that the House adopts all 13 appropriations bills. Those are the details about how do we fund this nation's government in the coming year. One of those areas that's been affected significantly is our nation's defense. Because of sequester, we have cut significantly into the defense budget. Now, this past budget, we were able to restore some of the dollars that came out of these readiness accounts. And remember, those are the accounts we use to train and to equip our men and women in the military. Our basic responsibility. This year coming up, though, we have another challenge. How do we make sure we get money into those accounts? Fundamental accounts. Accounts that allow for us to refuel an aircraft carrier. An aircraft carrier that still has 25 years left on its service life, that if we don't allow it to be refueled, it'll be mothballed. We spent $7 billion to build that ship. Are we going to mothball it, tie it to the dock? I would say no. We cannot do that. We also have 11 cruisers that are proposed to be laid up at the dock. Do we need those 11 cruisers? They perform the ballistic missile defense mission. You betcha we need those cruisers. Those cruisers need to be at sea doing their job. We also will stop building our amphibious ships, our L-class ships, our ships that we deploy Marines around the world. Do we need those ships? You betcha we need those ships. We need to continue the program to construct those ships. Another thing, we have 42 brigade combat teams in the Army. Of those that are not deployed in and around the places where they would have to go if war were to break out, like Europe, like South Korea, of the brigade combat teams that are not deployed on station, those that are back home, those that would be needed to back those forward deployed brigade combat teams, do you know how many of those brigade combat teams today are combat ready, that is, they've been through combat training? Only one. Only one of all those 42 are combat trained. Is that acceptable? Absolutely not. They need to be in our brigade combat training centers being trained up to make sure that they are ready to go if they are called upon. Do we live in a world that's safer today? No way. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. Look at what's happening in North Korea. Look at what's happening in Iran. Look what's happening in the Middle East. Folks, I argue that our military today is more challenged than it's ever been. We have to, as we come out of Afghanistan, get the reset of those forces right. We do two things after we come out of a conflict. We retrograde. We bring equipment out, we fix it, we make sure we can use it again, and that it's serviceable. And secondly, we reset, because we know the mission that we face coming out of Afghanistan is going to be different. We want to make sure our men and women in the Army, in the Navy, in the Marine Corps, and the Air Force are ready for that next mission. That's the way we make sure we reset our forces. There's one thing this nation has done with 100% certainty after conflict. We've gotten reset wrong. Look at World War II. Where do we end up in Korea? We should learn a lesson from that. The Battle of Osan, Task Force Smith, we thought we could just show up there and the North Koreans would go run back. Guess what? They didn't. We had a force that was improperly trained, improperly equipped. It was slaughtered, and we ended up in the very southeast portion of Korea until General MacArthur came in at the Battle of Chosun Reservoir and reestablished our presence in South Korea. We ought to learn a lesson from that. We look at Vietnam. What happened when we came back from Vietnam? We had depots full of rusty equipment that never was used again. We know where we have made the wrong steps in the past. We can't repeat those steps going forward. We need to make sure that we get things right. By any measure, reducing our force structure, which is another proposal before us, in a Marine Corps that's now at 220,000, down to a Marine Corps of 175,000, by any measure, can't be done. We cannot do this nation's work with a Marine Corps that small. General Amos, who come out of the Marine Corps, has said this. He said, you know what? Through the years, we've always done more with less. If you bring us down to 175,000, we're going to do less with less. The same way with the Army. The Army right now is at 550,000. Now, granted, we're coming out of Afghanistan. Do we need all 550,000 soldiers? Not now. But the proposal is to take the Army down to 420,000. By any measure, we cannot do the mission with only 420,000 soldiers. Just can't happen. We have to make sure, again, we get things right. Readiness is properly manning, properly training, properly equipping our forces. That's our challenge. We have to make sure we get it right this budget year. If we face sequester, those automatic budget cuts that happened in 2016, by any measure, it will be catastrophic. So Congress has to get the job done this year to make sure we properly resource our military, to make sure we stand by our commitment for our Navy, for our Marine Corps, for our Army, for our Air Force, and to make sure that we do not let sequestration happen as we face 2015. That absolute, okay?
Yeah.
All right. I got the signal. I'm running out of time. Okay. Motion sensor. That means I'm not moving around enough. So I'm going to move around a little bit, folks, as we talk to make sure the lights don't go out. In all seriousness, that's what we are facing as a nation. We have to get the budget right. Our deficits in debt are significant. We have to be addressing those. But folks, we cannot do that on the backs of our men and women that serve this nation. We have an obligation to get the budget right, to make sure we're on track to balance it, on track to address the debt. But we also have a very important duty. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution requires that Congress does its job to provide for the national defense and provide for its armies and navies. Remember, armies and navies were in the context of where it was at the time the Constitution was written, which today also includes our Marine Corps and our Air Force. That being said, that's our job one, is to make sure we get both of them right. We can get both of those right. We can get our nation on track to getting its finances in order and also meeting its obligation to make sure our men and women get what they need for the challenges they have ahead. Folks, I can tell you, I look at it as glass half full. We're still the greatest nation the world's ever known, and we're the greatest nation the world's ever known, I think, for one single reason. Because we have the greatest military the world's ever known. We have the best and brightest men and women willing to put themselves in harm's way to defend this nation. We have an obligation to them, a single obligation, and that is this. They have always had our support. They've always had the resources necessary when we ask them to go into battle to have overwhelming superiority so they can fight to victory and come home safe. We owe that to them. We should never relent for that obligation that we have in our Constitution to make sure we do that. We have our challenges ahead. The glass is half full. Our nation's best days are still ahead of it, and they will continue to be ahead of us as long as we make that commitment to our military, as well as making sure we get this nation's finances in order. So So I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight and give you a little overview about the challenges we have ahead, and I look forward to answering your questions